welcome to Circling Dialogos, and specifically this series of Dialectic into Dialogos with Daniel and Sandra. This is our fifth meeting, but it's officially the fourth in this series, and we did this one on faith, and boy, did it knock our socks off. So more about that in a moment, but first I have a bunch of exciting announcements to make, so get your pen and paper ready. So the next Dialogos, taught by John Vervaeke, Chris, and I, is going to be July 9th and 10th. So July 9th and 10th, Circling Dialogos. It'll be our third one. And again, it's going to be hosted by my company, the Circling Institute. There's a discount until 2 weeks prior to the start of the course. The link for that is below. We also have a Explorer Circling Intensive weekend. That's June 18th and 19th. That's coming up. And that's a deep dive into the kind of deep and radical listening and really being able to profoundly get the world of another person and all the skills that are involved with that. Basically, an intense 2 days of going deep circling together. I'll be leading that one as well. Every Thursday, we have something ongoing. We have a drop-in event. It's from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's open to everybody. And we also have the Art of Circling is open for registration. There's a discount, I think, for the first 15 people who register, and it's filling up quick. So if you know you're going to do it, and you just haven't registered yet, go ahead and do that now so you don't miss out on the discount, because I think the discount's like $1,000. So, all right, I think that's it. Lots of exciting things going on that I'm stoked about, which is including this conversation, this video, where we go into dialectic into Dialogos on faith as a virtue. And, well, I guess you can see for yourself, but definitely I think we could say we had the experience of discussing faith, going deep into faith. We were enacting faith in the way that we were talking about faith. And that kept happening over and over and over again. And those are just really poignant moments. I would say those are the moments where you go from dialectic into Dialogos, right? Where the logos catches it. And it's this experience of what you're talking about, you come to finding that that's what's doing the talking. That's what's organizing the way I'm being, the way everyone's being, and it's structuring and organizing and disclosing through the very conversation. So it's what we're talking about, but it's also what is doing the very talking. And then becoming present to that while in the midst of it happening is such a deepening, fortifying, incredible experience. So I'm enjoying and getting so much out of these weekly meetings that we're having, and I hope you enjoy the video as well. Thank you. Wait.
Okay. Should I go back a bit?
Yeah, just a little bit,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I just did a session with people totally new to this practice, not totally unfamiliar with John and his work, but definitely new to this practice. And we ended up kind of stuck at the circling part, but that was a totally necessary thing to work through for one of the people. And out of that, we all came to an appreciation of how important it is to explore the virtues. And, like even we hadn't really discussed why we're doing virtues. I just said, okay, we'll do the virtue, right? And I had thought of reverence, but because that's where we started. But anyway, out of our sort of initial circling came the virtue of caring. So we were all set to explore that, but then it got to one of the proposer had an internal conflict about it. We explored all that. That took up a lot of time, but it's very beneficial for all of us because it just totally underlined how important it is to explore the virtues. It's even if virtuous behavior is modeled for you in your development, which I've heard it happens. I've never
Yeah.
experienced it, but I've heard sometimes it happens,
Yeah.
It,
I've read that on the wall somewhere. Yeah.
yeah. It's still secondhand information. It remains at the propositional level, right? So, right. And so to actually incorporate a virtue as part of your character development, your own, and to make it your own and embody it, you have to explore what it actually is. And this is what we are doing.
Yeah.
This is what we are doing.
Yeah.
And that hadn't really, sunk home with me until I saw the process happen.
Right.
Right.
Totally. Daniel, what did you get about what sunk home for her?
The word necessity always strikes me very hard. The kind of the need for doing this.
Yeah.
That seems to be very obvious and very right. And it's important that we are doing this and exploring it.
Yeah. It's also, I think what I also heard was that experience of something just there looking you right in the face. And then you look and you're like, oh, that thing. Like, oh, virtue. Oh, like there's something about that experience that tells me we're in the right neighborhood. Like because that's a lot about what wonder is wonder is not so much about the fantastic or the out there or the brand new or something. Wonder is more like when there's a door right behind you your whole life and you just leaned in and you just opened that moment of like sitting there. On one level, it's wondrous that there's a door there. But even what's more wondrous is that it's been there forever. And so what's revealed is its concealedness, right? And that's the thing that seems to be the biting, the thing that catches, right? In the whole philosophical everything. Right?
Exactly. And it's been concealed for me through years and years and years of the self-righteous cultural overlay of so-called morality. What you are if you're a good person. This is what you are. And that, like, with all that noise in the system, the idea of even exploring what virtue actually is, for me, it just never, it's never heard. It's never been heard, you know?
Yeah. One of those things that you can always, it's also, virtue is interesting just as something, I don't know if this may be unique, but virtue, when you're talking about a virtue, I think you can always, it's always valid to stop and say, are we exemplifying the virtue in which we're speaking, right? There's a way where its relevance precedes us, and we in some sense live in it. It's like virtue seems, it's interesting that you're talking about virtue seems to be so much about kind of the structure of the way things are present for us, and the way that we're present in some deep way, right? In some deep way, because it's like we're always behaving, right? It's like we're having, we're always achieving. There's always some possibility that we're in relationship with, right? There's always more east to go. It's like it's just something so, it's so close, I think, is what the virtues get to. And so there's something about that when you take it up in dialogue and conversation, that you're doing something when you're doing that is really not about talking about something in some way. You are enacting it or not. Like that is relevant, it just seems rare to me that something structured like that, right? Because most things you can talk about, right? And you can talk about them in a way that doesn't affect you and on any level, right? But virtues, you're always at stake in the matter.
What you were just describing was reminding me about how Nishitani in Religion Nothingness describes religion as the real self-realization of reality. And he uses this phrase, which seems a little bit awkward at the beginning. And he has realizing in the sense, he calls it understanding sive appropriation, which means, and he has realized, the English realize in his mind, which has two meanings. Realize, I can realize something just in my head, but I can also realize a project, let's say. So it's transjective. It's both in the mind and outside. And that's, I think, this enactment that you're kind of like getting at with virtue. Virtue is helping us to, in this self-realization of reality, because while we are also speaking about it, we are at the same time enacting it. We are understanding, sive appropriating, and so we are realizing in this double way. I think. I hope we are doing that's. I think we can see. Then we this is successful. Perhaps we can say it like this.
Yeah. I think you admit something in just when you say, I hope we can do that. That sense, that sense of that something really is at stake. And I as we're talking about this, I think that people don't walk around, I think, that they kind of walk around where with an assumption that you can talk about stuff without at all it all being that talking, reaching back and affecting you in some way, right? And that's the kind of the essence of idle talk in some way, right? Is this way that we can just kind of boop, 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 how you doing? Da, da, da. There's a normative function to that. There's like, it's intense that we even have anything like that. And it's like, it's a good thing. However, it covers over this way that, like, literally, right? I'm watching a human being being conversed into existence, right? He's each new word he has, the more he's him. Like, I don't know how else to put it. The more he's him, he's got banana now. He's got the word banana. I swear to God, like, I was watching him say banana, and I was looking at his face, and his face looks more personal. Like, he looks more like him now that he can say banana. I don't know. This stuff is so primordial, right? So in other words, I think part of what we're doing in doing this, and part of the reason why the sense is to let other people to share it with other people, is this way that, in some sense, we're standing and pointing to that this totally ordinary thing that we call conversation could be so extraordinary, right?
We are being talked in, how did you put it with Teague? We are being talked into existence ourselves, an enhanced existence ourselves through this practice.
Yeah.
We really are,
yeah. Totally. We got to come to terms with stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the language that I have learned through this, the logos, I never had it in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
But once I heard it, yeah, right? It
just,
it's
like a door. It's like that door.
It just, right, it opened. Yeah, it did. And, I feel like, in a way, sort of a newborn into this, this world now, like.
Totally.
And, and more as we talk more, it becomes more.
Yeah.
I still, as you're both talking, we had thought of doing the virtue of faith this week. Mm-hmm. And as you were talking, I was thinking, well, I am sort of developing a sense of faith that this whole project of me is not for naught. Like as I have been almost convinced for my entire life, being a confirmed nihilist for most of my life. And I'm still kind of holding on to that part of, but, that kind of like, maybe, but, let's see, that kind of thing, right? But it's sort of like, as I have the word faith and it comes in, as you're talking, I feel this really strong, despite all this other garbage around me, this strong line that, this through line that, it's being reinforced. It really is. It's being reinforced.
And the it's and the through line is, what's that through line? The it's
to reality, I think, to meaningful reality, the real reality.
How does that holding in the through line, how does that feel to you? What does that evoke in you? How does your being respond to that? tension in the through line?
Confidence, it gathers confidence. I'm actually like, there this last week or so, there have been moments when I actually see nothingness. I mean, it sounds a little silly, but I actually do.
Right.
It sounds a bit funny, but I do. And today I was sitting in front of, because I've been still going to mass, right? I was sitting there and today they were doing a March for Life. They were all gathered to do their March for Life, and they were all rah about March for Life, right? And I just can't, there's something so, anyway, I was aware of all this stuff going on around me. And there was this solid confidence that even in this craziness of our society, that the craziness that is amplified actually in the within the walls of the church, even in this, there's this solid,
Solid. That was very good.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there's something solid in me that has not been solid before. Yeah, yeah. But it's more like that. It's not like this. It's not like fight. It's more like it's going through.
Is it fair to say it's like you're hearing a through line?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're hearing it in multiple contexts.
Yeah.
And even strange ones, right? There's something.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Even in the midst of all this noise.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
And what do you think does it take for you, so you can, even in all of that noise and craziness, that you can hear that through line? Do you think that faith is the virtue that helps with that, or something else?
I think faith is kind of like the byproduct, actually, of it. It's not that I have the virtue of faith. It's that faith has appeared as the byproduct of whatever this movement is that is now moving me.
Yeah. Faith is the byproduct of what it is. Yeah. And so there's something already underway that you're finding yourself coming to awareness as it's underway.
Yeah.
And that retrospectively, the word faith points to that.
Yeah.
But it's important to emphasize that it's not like you're a subject that's done something.
No, and it's not that I possess faith or I practice faith or it's not, it doesn't start with me.
Yeah.
I am a byproduct of it. It's coming through. Yeah, it's working through me like that.
That was a nice paraphrase, Daniel.
Yeah.
It was nice. So a couple things, like if we just do a personal kind of a check-in here a bit, especially just because one of the things I want to track, right, as we're doing this is the impact on our lives, right? And so one of the things I'm seeing is that this is starting to cohere, this conversation, and that it happens every Thursday, and I think it has something to do with its regularity. and the developing relationship I'm having with both of you is forming into like, this has now become a place in my mind. It's a room in my house, right? And where I saw that was the last, because part of it is this email thread that we got going. And I could hear, I think you wrote something beautiful, Sandra, about the logos, and I heard it, and I loved it, and there was a freedom I felt in that had to do with my perception of the listening of both of you and of this, that just had me go, I just stopped what I was doing. I didn't even think about it. I just got some coffee. I sat down and then just started responding in some sense, right? And I think there's something for me that what this is, and that is connected with that through line I think that you're talking about. So there's a rigor to it. There's something that you hit, right? There's something, there's something that pushes back, right, in some way. But it's also, that's giving me a feeling of freedom and experimentation that I noticed in my responsiveness and the way that I responded to like just something as simple as that email that you put out, right? Just kind of, in some sense, following. And I think one of the, this is interesting, is the sense of, I think, starting to have some discernment with different modes of thought. Like there's different modes of thinking, right? And there's like being able to perceive the tonas, the color of something like conceptual thinking, right? Something like in that ballpark where we're going off on we're just following a thread, and we're going to go all the way. We may just fall down and break, right? Most of the time we kind of fall down and break and realize I had no idea what the hell I was talking about or whatever, but like,
it doesn't matter though.
Yeah, but that movement and what it's for and what it already has in view, there's a tone to it as a kind of thinking, right? Maybe conceptual thinking is close, but just the sense, philosophical thinking of that, of having that be more distinct and present and knowing when it's there, and then freely responding to it. Feels like a new room in my house, or it's more like the door to that room is getting clear. I think it's always been a room to the house, but it's getting clear, and that's one of the impacts I'm noticing of our conversations.
Is there an invitational quality?
Yeah,
very strong.
Yeah,
open invitational quality.
Definitely. Yeah, and it's invitational, and it doesn't have very much of the other stuff that comes with social things, right? Where I'm not like incessantly looking to see what you guys if you guys responded, or like it doesn't seem like there's much image management going on. It's like a lot of that kind of neurotic stuff that can come with sociality. I don't feel much of that. There's an openness.
Yeah, and I'm also aware in that openness of the different facets that we are, bringing, that it's not it's a faceted sort of. Yeah.
One day, you know what? One day somebody just figured out how to call my computer, and I have no idea.
And there they are.
Just one day, people started calling me on my computer, and I don't know why or how that happened, but I just shut it off.
Yeah, I'm really also aware of the balance that I don't know if I don't know why there's this balance to the perspectives or the facets but it seems almost like almost like a perfect balance, it's I'm sure there's a sense of balance. If we were three different people and we were doing the same practice, it would be that a balance would happen.
Mm.
It would feel different, maybe. I don't know.
Mm.
I mean, the group that I just did, we have a balance. I joke around a lot with them, but I know them, really well. Yeah.
How about for you, Daniel? What have you been noticing, if you've been noticing anything of just the impact of this on your life?
I was very moved when Sandra when you were just before talking that you were, or you are, I don't know, but you said you were most of your life a nihilist, and now you come to terms with something.
Right? Or certified.
Bona fide, man, oh man. Oh, I have witnesses to. I could bring up a lot of witnesses to that. Yeah. Testimony. Yeah.
No, but I can resonate with that a lot, and that coming to terms with something solid, which, however, because this solidness can always elude us.
Mm-hmm.
So just for everyone, just a reminder. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go into dialectic on faith. And I think what really faith is a virtue, the virtue of faith. And one person will make a proposal. The other person will be the midwife, the Socratic midwife, and will help educe out and draw out whatever the thought behind that proposal and let it unfold. And then at a certain point, when that's complete or we hit aporia, we want to kind of note the aporia and tolerate it a bit. And then you move into the listener then takes the proposition or what was proposed and says, first, what you appreciate about the proposition, right? What this thought anticipates, right? Kind of like, what's the sense of what direction is that heading in? And what's missing, or what is mysterious? And then once that's done, then that person, they say a proposal about faith. And then the same thing happens, and then we'll go around 3 times, and then we'll check in at the 3rd time if we want to keep going that way, or if we want it to open up and just freeform dialogue. And again, to highlight the distinction and just keep tapping on this, because it's, I mean, just my experience of circling for 25 years and having a term, it can get really, really diluted. And so the invitation is to continually remind ourselves of what we mean by dialogos is something that we're not doing. What we're doing is the dialectic. And it's dialogos points to that moment where something turns or opens up, and where there's something, you could say, where we've listened through the words, right, into what gathers them all together, the logos. And there's a kind of almost like an identification with the logos, where we start to say things that we didn't understand before. We don't quite know where it's coming from. And there's a quality of like, it's beyond what we could have done on our own. That opening, we can plant the garden, we can't make it grow. So that's kind of the sense of that. And then one of the additions that we're gonna practice is the one person will be a scribe, where they'll be just listening for like the wording of the proposition, and then track it as it changes, right? And then at the end, what we'll do at the end of our time together, we'll take 5-10 minutes, and for each of us, really kind of state what we're taking with us from this, and then start the integration or translation process of like, okay, if I really, really got this fully and completely, like all the way down, how would I know? What would be the evidence that would tell me? Like, how would I see? How would I feel? What would I hear myself thinking? What would I hear myself not thinking? Would I be letting go of? Would I be all those kinds of things, right? And we'll do that right at the end. Sound good?
Thank you. That was helpful.
Sweet. So does anybody feel particularly moved to be the first proposer for this one? Or does anybody, if it's not you, do you have a sense of, I'm feeling Billy Bob?
I'm feeling Daniel has a proposal.
Good, great. Would you be so kind as to be the hearkener, the listener?
Sure, if he's on board with being the proposer. That was a nod.
I felt you were talking about the byproduct, and that that's why I thought you might be good for the first proposal. But I can also propose. That's fine.
Okay, great.
I have to do it spontaneously. It's also good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the image that's still lingering with me was this kind of through lining that Sandra was exemplifying before when we were talking. So I want to propose that faith is the perpetual return to that solid through line that holds us.
So faith is the perpetual return to the solid through line
Yes.
that holds us. And
Yes.
Daniel, your hands were it, when you were doing this, the word that I was getting was gathering.
Yeah, I also have gathering in my head.
Okay. Okay. So how if you do you want to include the word gathering in that?
So the proposal
Faith
was
is-
faith is the perpetual return to that solid through line that holds us.
So I'm feeling into that, how I can include it. Faith is the perpetual return, and also the gathering of the solid through line that holds us.
So I just want to pull apart the two lines of this, the two aspects. There's a perpetual return, and there's also a gathering exerted or enacted by this.
Yes. So, because in order to return, faith is that which sustains my, I don't have a good word, belief, I don't want to say belief, but my trust in that return, so that I can always come back to that through line that holds us. And simultaneously with that, I'm also gathering myself and the world into that through line, something like that.
So faith is a homing. With the homeward homing, does that?
Yeah, trust.
The trust
Yeah.
in the. Oh, I'm a bit lost. What have you written so far, Guy?
I'm just summarizing. Hang on, somewhere. So it's faith is the perpetual return and also the gathering of the solid through line.
And after that, I was just exploring what that return evokes in me.
Yeah.
In a sense that there's an element of trust that this through line will really hold me, that I can always come back to that. I think that seems to be constitutive for faith. There is an element that I want to make that return because I have trust that it will hold me and it will pull me out, let's say, of nihilism or of despair.
Okay.
Where kind of like I this is again what we said last time with this offering. I offer myself to this through line, that solidness. That's all for me included in that return.
So faith is the trust that the through line is always there and around which I can gather. I can trust in the gathering of it there, that there's a trust and that it holds me. It will hold me.
Just let me know anytime you want me to read anything.
Is there, Sandra, is there anything unclear, or is there anything that catches you in this proposal?
I'm a bit unclear about. I'm just a bit unclear about the action, like the locus of action, like. Is the locus of action the gathering and the trust that what I am gathering will find its home, or is the locus of action that I am gathered? That I don't know if I'm putting it right. I'm just a bit confused about that part.
I can tell you what he said is that the return has nothing to do with the return, which is trust. It's a trust that it will really hold me.
Okay.
And I can always come back to, and gives me the desire to come back to it. I heard it in that it's not just that I can, but there's something that isn't neutral about it.
Is drawing me back or calling me back.
So, you were with the locus. And when I'm doing this gathering movement, it's almost as if we are simultaneously gathering and kind of an encompassing locus where the through line and we ourselves, we turn to each other. We come together. We both find our home ground, if that language is allowed. And faith is that trusting, going back to that home ground, which, however, can only be there only with the through line. Something like that. So it's not just in me and not just out there, but it's an enacted locus.
Okay. So, okay, let me see if I can paraphrase. Faith is what gathers our togetherness into a through line that we can trust and find our home in.
Can you repeat that?
Faith is that which gathers our togetherness into a through line that we can trust and find our home in. How does that fit? Did I get everything?
It seems to me now that perhaps the return and the gathering perhaps say the same.
Okay.
Almost as if there's sometimes I come back to the wisdom of the body. That movement almost indicates a return. Perhaps the gathering and the returning indicate the same movement, the same action.
And can I ask you, when this movement of gathering, is it gathering our togetherness into something that is that we can trust, that holds us, and that moves, that brings us back, that gathers us together back to the through line of our unity, commonality, of reality, or
I mean, faith has to do with me with a kind of structure of anticipation, kind of looking forward, but looking forward where I can anticipate what might happen. And faith for me, in the deepest sense, I don't know that will happen. For example, that when we say I will come back on Thursday, I can't know that, but I have faith that my anticipation will be really true. That when we do this rightly, we gather this, what you said, the gathering, we gather our togetherness into the through line. So
it's an anticipation with trust that we can gather our togetherness into.
Which, however, must be fostered by a participation in reality. Because if I don't have anything, if I have no idea what reality is really like, then I can't have that faith, I think. So, and the more I come back to that through line, the greater my faith in that ontological level becomes. Because it is really there. Reality is really like this. It really holds us if we let it hold us. So that I think in the email when I wrote about ontological faith, I think it has something to do with this realizing reality. And in realizing reality, I also get a notion of faith that reality is really that gathering, and I can really trust that whole thing.
Mm.
So let's try. Faith is the virtue that affords me an ontological, that affords me ontological reality through the togetherness. I want to put the word togetherness in there, but I don't know.
I and you, we all belong to that through line.
Mm-hmm.
We are together in it.
Mm. The ontological reality of our togetherness.
Yeah, we realize it. We realize it together, perhaps. Faith has a, and maybe you wanna. I would encourage you to inquire into that togetherness in your own proposal, if you.
Yeah.
Because I think there seems to be something important there.
Okay.
Guy, can you read me the first? Because I'm.
Totally. Let me just make it a little bigger here. Okay, so where it started was faith is the perpetual return to that solid through line that holds us. And then faith is the perpetual return and also the gathering of the solidness through line. That holds us. And then faith is what sustains my trust in that return, such that I can always come back and thus having faith is also synonymous with gathering.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can come up with now. It seems that if Sandra was inquiring about the action, what's really going on, and it seems to me that faith is magnifying the togetherness within that gathering. So it strengthens the interdependence of all the mutual elements. It magnifies the participation.
Yes.
So I will give a final proposal, and then you can appreciate and anticipate.
And then sit in aporia, yeah. So final proposal. Here it comes.
Faith is the trusting anticipation into to reality, and simultaneously the action that magnifies our participation, our togetherness with reality.
Okay, I think I got it. So you're proposing, right, that faith is a trusting anticipation into reality. And simultaneously, faith is the action that magnifies our togethering participation with this reality.
Gathering, I like that. It's a kind of mix between together and gathering. It's a nice word.
Gathering. Oh yeah.
Yeah, to gathering, that would be nice.
Yeah. Gathering, yeah, that's nice.
So one more time. So faith is a trusting anticipation into reality, and simultaneously the action that magnifies our together participation with reality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gathering, that's nice. It's really nice.
Okay. So we do appreciation now?
Yeah. Appreciation, anticipation, mystery.
Yeah. So I'm appreciating the movement of it. It feels like following. Daniel was following a thread of something calling him to look at. He was actively hearing and participating in something that was pointing to different places in himself, showing him faith, showing him trust, showing him the happy anticipation, trusting anticipation of to gathering, and kind of beckoning him to follow it in faith. He was enacting faith itself. Yeah, that was wonderful to watch.
Thank you.
So, and the mystery, where the mystery for me is where that voice that I follow, or that he follows, that we follow, where that moves from the inner, like the focus inward, the self-focus, to expand outward to others and our otherness. our participation. Yeah, that is a point of interest for me.
So the
where that happens, yeah, how that happens.
Yeah, how does this? So what you're saying is what's mysterious is how does the togethering happen as intrinsic to it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Sandra, I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is faith?
Mm. Faith is both individual and shared.
Faith is both individual and shared.
Actually, it's two sentences. I want a period at the end of that. It is a virtue grounded in my, just for clarity, it's grounded in my openness to hear.
Faith is grounded in my openness to hear.
Yeah. And there's a word that I want that means both blossoming and enacting and proliferating and whatever that word is.
Yeah. Blossoming, enacting, proliferating.
In my participation.
In my participation.
With it through others.
With my participation with faith.
With faith through others.
Through others. Yes.
Okay. Can you read that back?
Yeah, what did you get, Daniel?
So faith, you started, faith is both individual and shared. Faith is a virtue grounded in my openness to hear, and something like blossoming, flowering in my participation with and through others.
So go ahead and read that one more time.
Faith is both individual and shared. Faith is a virtue grounded in my openness to hear, and faith is blossoming or flowering in my participation with and through others.
So the faith operates both individually and together with others.
Yeah. So the way of faith operates both individually and together. Yeah. Can I ask you, this it seems like you're attuned to the together aspect.
Yeah.
What is it about the together part that seems crucial?
The expansion part, the action, the blossoming not only of myself but of like enhancing others enhancing the world, and doing faith does wonderful things.
Yeah.
When there is a doing part of it that it doesn't, it's not just my own that I carry around silently. It enhances the world.
It enhances the world, and the action part of it has to do with this coming towards the other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Faith needs to operate communally in order to do its good.
Yeah. So something, is it fair to say, is it like the medium of faith is communion?
Yeah.
Because I think maybe what I'm hearing, if I'm hearing it correctly, is that if I can say stuff to you about my blah, 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 right, and I can say it to you, and then when you hear it, I go, oh, blah 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 blah. There's something about that mutuality. Seems to give it that kind of bite of knowing or clarity or
it's operative.
Real.
It's operative.
Yeah.
It's operative. Yeah.
It
operates.
It
operates in the world. Yeah.
Totally. So there's something about, like, it's an operative valid. Is it validation?
Yeah, it's an operative. Well, it's both. It's an operative medium. I'm thinking it operates. It has effects.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
And it's a medium, a platform, a vehicle.
Right. Okay, got it. So it's like, what I'm hearing is the communal part of this is crucial to faith.
In order for it to affect its potential.
Yeah.
In order for it to be salvific, to be right? Yeah. In order for it to bring into reality its potential for good. Yeah.
And there's something in there that I just heard, which is, so faith has this, I'm hearing it's not just having faith in a reality over there. There's something creative about it, right? And that very creativeness, right? It's constituting medium, right? That both holds it, shows it, and glows it. Is this sharing part of it, this enacting. And so that part that, like, oh, I can have faith in this, is like, oh, if this can affect other people and they can use similar words that I'm using about this thing, that's something that I actually start to comport towards, turn towards more.
Yeah. What do they say? Faith can move mountains. I mean, that's been said before, right?
Yeah.
The mountains of nihility.
Yeah. I think I'm just hearing, I'm hearing actually a reality being disclosed in a particular way. It's like, it's the opposite of, it's not static. It's not a fact, right? That other people are pointing to, and they're all saying they saw it or they witnessed it or something like that. It's not like the courtroom. But what you're saying is that when we are in faith and when we are together in faith, right, that the conversation of faith with others, right, in some sense affords reality to become real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to just take, if you take just a second and you just kind of feel into like, oh, this faith has this relationship with reality. What is that reality?
I have the image of my damaged self, my tattered soul standing before the wonder, with just this tiny little bit of virtue, of the virtue of faith that I have been putting my attention on, allows me, despite my tattered soul I'm dragging around with me.
Yeah.
He is standing, before the real reality.
Yeah.
Which I would never have conceived on my own. Never.
Totally. So this conception of faith, is it fair to say that this conception that you're speaking of, was that an enactment of the faith that you're speaking of?
It seems to have even, I don't know how this happens, but the words come out of my mouth. Like, I think I'm forming the words. And maybe at some point I am forming the words.
Yeah.
But then the words take me to a place.
Yes.
That I could never have conceived of before.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Ever.
Yes.
Like the farthest from my imagination.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
So there's something about what you're talking about that is faith, right? Can take you not just into reality, but what reality could be.
Yeah. And what reality is. And the other thing is that the togetherness, that only happens in the togetherness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not on my own, but in the togetherness.
Yeah.
That's what the togetherness.
Right.
Not the togetherness that I believe this, you believe this, we all believe this. That not that togetherness at all.
Right. Not
the real togetherness.
Real togetherness.
Yeah.
Right. The real togetherness.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So Daniel, what do you got written right now?
Shall I start with the first proposal? So faith is both individual and shared.
Yep.
It is a virtue grounded in my openness to hear. and it is blossoming or flowering in my participation with and through others. Shall I read my notes as well?
That's probably yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Faith operates both individually and together. Faith enhances the world. Faith needs to operate communally to do its good. The medium of faith is communion. Faith is like an operative medium, like a vehicle. Communion is important to affect its potential for good and salvation. Faith is creative. It can move mountains. And then I thought that was very, very moving when the damaged self, the tethered soul, standing before wonder, before the real reality, before that little bit of the virtue of faith. Words, that were Sandra's words. Words take me to a place that is farthest from my imagination.
When they are shared. Just hearing that as you're reading it, like I'm imagining reading a book. Yeah, this is what faith is. Yeah, and the words are all good. I think that I'm happy with the words. I'm really happy with the words that I heard, but they are a pale reflection of what it actually is. What the words actually bring me to.
Yeah.
They're such a pale reflection, even when they're correct.
Right. And there's something about that structure that you just laid out that feels like the link to the togetherness. Right. What I'm hearing is that the togetherness and faith positions us in towards that which in some sense requires our faith to be in a toward relationship with, right?
Yeah.
And that relationship that we have together, right, is crucial because it's, in some sense, there's a vulnerability.
Yeah, and then it opens up to the operation. I mean, it's what you were saying about dialectic to dialogos, guy.
Yeah, yeah.
It opens us all up to receive.
Yeah.
The real.
Yeah.
The real goods.
Yeah. So the relationships that we have, the philia, right?
Yeah.
Is an intimacy that where we're in some sense holding each other, right? Holding each other. In fact, the relationship, its basis is a holding each other in what it is that we're having faith in, right? And that requires a kind of vulnerability, a constant in process, even an awareness that anything that I say is just going to be, is not going to be it's not going to encompass it. It'll go way beyond.
It's not the real thing. It's a representation of the real thing. Yeah, it's not the real thing.
Totally.
Yeah, and what you said about Daniel,
like reminders of that we're doing that in some sense. Yeah. Okay.
And what you said about Daniel and his participation and wonder. I mean, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same quality that allows for this.
Yes.
It's amazing how it all kind of just all seems to just organize itself, right?
And do you have faith in that?
Do I have faith in that?
Yeah, that it just seems to be just organizes itself.
Yeah. The evidence is before us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a scientist. The evidence is,
Yeah.
I present you the evidence. Yeah.
Totally. So is it fair to say that right now is a moment that we are living in faith?
Yeah. I don't see how it isn't that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What are you writing, Daniel?
Yeah, just snippets. It was a bit too much there. I can't keep track of everything.
There was a lot going on. I hope we have this recorded.
Yeah.
We have it recorded.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I mean, faith was moving there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It was
So,
moving.
Sandra,
Yeah.
what is faith? Back the hermeneutic circle, coming back.
Faith moves us.
Faith moves us
to worship reality.
Ah. Faith moves us.
Worship and stand in awe of reality.
Stand in awe of reality. Awesome. So faith
moves us
to worship and stand in awe of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Any last things before we
end?
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like a mountain has been moved.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really do.
Mm. 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 Yes. There's that action. It's quite an action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So just I just want to take a second and just be in silence with this for a moment before I move into appreciation. Faith is to worship and stand in awe of reality. Oh, one of the things I'm really appreciating is just the process of just the process itself. And I loved finding ourselves in it, like finding ourselves being in what I experienced was what you were attempting to articulate with faith, was finding ourselves in a kind of a concentrated way, doing it, right? Being it in some way. I loved that. And I take those moments and go, that's one of the signposts for me to will to have faith in, right? In some sense. When that happens, good stuff is going on.
Absolutely.
So I appreciated the humility that you kept close in, and this relationship with other people with this of like, in some sense, it's like unless this is really done with other people, right? It doesn't, there's something constituting about a relationship of faith, right? In that way. And I hadn't really thought about it like that or considered it like that. And so that feels, I'm appreciating that. It just feels more alive about it to me. And the reverence implied in that image that you said of like my battered soul, right? In some sense, before the fucking the thing. Oh my God, I loved that. That was really that hit home. And my sense of anticipating where this leads, right, is one, is it leads to my relationships becoming so much more poignant, knowing what's possible and understanding this more. So it feels like, oh, there's a grip, there's a more of a sense of an optimal grip in a very practical way, right? With people and the relationships in my life to such that something like if I got the sense of, if I really held in mind, right, that we could both walk away from this conversation in more faith. Like, I think that context probably would invite all the things that intimacy invites. And so what's mysterious for me in this is this relationship with vulnerability and faith, and the vulnerability in the relationships of faith, right? And in some sense, it's kind of like, and I'd say, like, in some sense, it's faith is a proactive, taking my softest spot and just entrusting it, right? Entrusting it. So there's to something that's through me, but also bigger than me, right? And so there's something about a proactive, that's the virtue of it, of like, that's what, at least is what it seems like it takes courage, is faith is that way of comporting my most the thing that affects me the most, whatever that is, and taking that spot and pointing it right in that place of faith. I've never quite seen it as vulnerability like that before.
Yeah.
But there's an intimacy there.
And Daniel was referring to it early too, when he was talking about anticipation too. That started the whole.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, started that piece of it as well, and the, you know, what it's sort of like, I'm not the one who has faith. There's no such,
Yeah.
that's just it, not it.
Yeah.
That faith is understanding that faith moves me.
Yeah.
And all I have to do is be open to that reality.
Right.
Just that little bit of opening that little door that you mentioned.
Right.
Turning towards that door even.
Okay, so now that I think this gets into that, probably gets into my proposal. Okay, just reading the last one of yours. Faith is to worship and to stand and be in awe of reality.
Faith moves me to worship.
Faith moves me.
Mm-hmm.
So before I make the proposal, I think I want to find my way there a little bit. So one of the things that I have been considering with faith has been, it seems like faith, because it's so deep, right? Like somebody's faith, when it's a real faith, right? That it sits under everything, right? So everything, and wanting it to sit under everything, right? And so it's got this conformity quality to it, right? This expansive quality to it. But also it also gathers into specificity, right? In some way. And that specificity seems to be important, right? Mm-hmm. But I want to say something like this is like faith, whatever my conscious explanation or thoughts or a sense of faith, if I have faith in something, I have a feeling that faith, that I don't have something when I have faith. Does it realize something that in some sense has to do with my being. So I think it's something like faith this is intense. It's great. It's beautifully intense, the experience of it. There's there's something about the structure of the way that we're present that I have a feeling has something deeply to do with faith, or something like faith, in that most of what we're doing all day long, right, is really like what affords us being able to do it in the way that we do it are all these background things, right? Like in some sense, there's, like you're parenting your kid and you're watching them do this hard thing, but you try not to let them know that you're there, right? Because you want them to, it's this, so they're like, walking on a cliff, or they're walking on, at the edge of something, and your hands are right there, but they don't know that they're right there, right? And such that if he slips, boom, you're right there. Like there's that thing that catches us at like just a very basic level is what we operate our lives out of, right? Our cultural background, our sociological background, there's so many things that are tacit, right? In every moment of our existence that it's something that I think that constitutionally we know that we can never hold all of it, right? With our little frontal lobes. So just that sense of like, what is it, right? What is it that lives in my life has very little to do with my conscious considerations, if you will, right? And that's, and it's in that sense of the way human being is. Dasein is the being that always finds themselves underway. That finding already underway, I think it's like, so in that sense, faith, when I have faith in something, really what I'm doing is I'm acknowledging, right? The most basic relationship I am, right?
You're acknowledging the most basic relationship you are.
Yeah. Like in this dependent, interdependent, how all the different ways of saying some version of dependency. Faith, the living faith is the living. It's like the living turning towards that, right? In some sense, like turning towards how little I do and how much everything else does is stunning. And I don't even need to be conscious of it. In fact, my consciousness of it may even get in the way of it. So I think that there's an ontological, it's like faith is the ultimate admittance of my own ontology, right? It's like that, it's the realization, recognition, and remembering that I am. It's specifically this, and I think this is why it's more of like a how versus a what. Like the how things are, how the world holds together, right? That it holds together, like that there is anything, that sense of there, that, this, it. Every single moment we find ourselves, and it's already begun, we're already underway. And faith in some sense is our ability to have faith is, I think, is that ontological, our ontic faith, right, is given by our ontological faith. It's all the way down, it's all the way deep. Yeah, so let me just take a second, sit with that. Did I say anything proposal like?
Somewhat. I've been writing down a few things.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull something. You started out saying, I don't have faith. I realize something that has to do with my being. So you're moving towards the ontological.
Yeah.
And then you recognized that just as a parent holds a child in its activity, it's always there, but not apparent, not obvious, but it holds. And that faith has something to do with realizing the reality of that being held. So at some point you said the living faith is turning toward acknowledging my interdependent dependency. It's the ultimate admittance of the I am.
Yeah.
It's a how, not what. It's a truth.
Yeah.
The sense of that we're already underway.
Yeah.
And our ability to have faith is the ontic faith, which is given by our ontological being, I think you said.
Anything you would add?
Daniel?
No, I would just like to ask you what you think faith is.
Yeah. Yeah. If faith is the terrifying recognition yeah. And faith is the terrifying recognition that it's the terrifying recognition that this is in such a way that the thing that was most terrifying is realized as an incomprehensible blessing.
So there's a turning from the most terrifying to the most blissful.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there was a period in my life in my I think it was the late 30s where I had a series of kind of really difficult kind of non-dual experiences, and one of them was basically like where I felt like I had glimpsed it all without a frame, and it wasn't good news.
Oh.
And that and having that whole year was a perpetual struggle with anxiety, but it also revealed how deep we're talking about the matter is, right? And that like it's not like one of those things where I'm walking around living my life and reminding myself like although I do this sometimes, but it's not like I have to have it in front of mind about what I have faith in. It's more of this always already background question that I am. And if it's like, so it's interesting that I'm constantly reaching into the world in my orientation has everything to do, like my relationship to ultimate reality if something changes with that, everything changes. It's like contextually, it's the deepest or the highest, right, matter that I think that we're talking about with faith is like, how do I comport, in some sense, how do I comport myself to the matter that has the world show up for me in the way that it does, right? Like that relationship, it's a relationship with that. And so if it was like, if I felt like I saw reality and it wasn't good news, I would watch my mind kind of try to find safe places, but it was like the place of place, right? In some sense. And just so you know, the what I realized was, and it was such a fucking huge relief when I recognized that the place that I went to, when I recognized it had a similar feeling of when I was a child. And once I saw that I may have had a frame, I was just relieved.
Yeah, that made all the difference.
Yeah,
that made
all the difference. But it's like, I think that what that shows is like faith is that conversation that hasn't, it's the most attuning. It's like, it's where faith goes to, what you're in the consideration of and confronted with in faith, I think is things like, is it good? Right? Is it friendly?
Yeah.
Right? Those kinds of questions. So, and I think the process of faith can only be that, right? Which is the process of continually together asking ourselves the deepest questions, right?
How does...
And I'm needing to go here in like 2 minutes, unfortunately. So.
Oh dear. Oh really? Oh.
Then we have to pick this up next time.
Yeah.
The relationship between faith and vulnerability.
Yes.
How that comes about.
Yes.
I think would be a mystery worth inquiring into.
And there's the communitas that Sandra is turning into. Yeah, because it's like, turning toward the thing that's, well, it's an intimate relationship with reality. So like, like turning to, that's where the support comes in, right? Of like, a really good friend will respond to you in such a way that the best way they can to invite you to turn towards whatever's most real, right?
Yeah.
And that way. And it's that relationship, which I think is the realizing of faith, right?
Yeah.
In that way.
And be there when you face the jaws of the devil. Yeah, because when you see that, when you see it and it's not good news, there's no escape. There's no escape, not even death. It's an escape.
Much love.
Much love. Yeah, we'll pick it up.
Yes, absolutely. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.